About, I guess, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we had Liberal leader Dominique Anglade on with us. She very graciously said, you know what, this was in the midst, by the way, of the whole issue with her open letter in the Journal de Montréal, but nothing in the Montreal Gazette, and then a policy statement suggesting she wanted to reconnect with Quebecers. So we said, what a better way to do it, at least as far as we're concerned, for Anglo-Quebecers or just those in Montreal listening to us, to talk to our listeners. So she said yes, at which point we said, hey, you know what? We ought to do this for all the political leaders. There's an election coming up in October. People want to know what the leaders think, what their party stands for. And I think certainly the case for the Conservative Party of Quebec, which I think it's safe to say 6 months ago, no one even thought, maybe some people didn't even know we had a provincial Conservative Party. Yeah. Then along came Eric Duhaime, radio talk show host from Quebec City, who decided, well, hey, I can do something with this party. I can revive it. And it has been so far a pretty big success. Yes, we're still months away from an election, but I think, Mr. Duhaime, you've managed to sign up more members than any other party in this province so far. So there clearly is a surge in popularity for the Conservatives. And thank you for coming on and agreeing to take questions.
Well, thank you for your invitation. And of course, yes, it's been quite a ride up to now, the last year since I became leader of the party. And we're very proud now that we have 58,000 members, and it keeps going up every single day.
So we've had you on a couple of times. Both Natasha and I were impressed with the fact that you answered the questions. You didn't try to necessarily hide anything or cover anything up. Not that you do, necessarily have to, but you were formerly a radio talk show host in Quebec City. Yeah. And I think, if we're honest, you said some pretty outrageous things during that time. People wonder, okay, is that the real Eric Duhaime, or is what we have now as leader of the Conservative the real Eric Duhaime, and have you changed?
Well, when you're a radio host, you want to provoke debate. Especially me, I was doing, open lines, and you always go on both sides. I mean, you challenge ideas that your people coming in your show or that you're interviewing, or when you want to open up the lines and you want to make sure that listeners are calling and have a strong opinion. So of course, it's very easy afterwards to take quotes out of context and make me sound very weird. But as a politician, fortunately, I don't have to do that at all anymore. I just have to stand up and say the policies of our party and what we stand for and what we're proposing to Quebecers. And I think that's what I'll be judged on October 3rd when people are going to vote.
Did you ever say anything that you regret?
Yes, obviously, and I said so at the time. But the majority of what they're talking about right now is not necessarily things I regret, because it's things that were completely out of context. Like I do, when you have a microphone under your nose for 4 hours a day for 10 years, there's a lot of things that you've said, and it's very easy to take one sentence or two out of context and make you look like a fool.
So, I think we can relate to that, Mr. Duhaime. We're in I'm going to switch gears. We're in an affordable housing crisis right now in Canada and certainly in Quebec. Given that Pierre Poilievre recently came under criticism for owning several properties with his wife, you own 5 properties. How will you tackle the housing problem in Quebec, and are you part of the problem?
Well, I'm part of. I don't think we're part of the problem. Actually, it's the opposite. I hope everybody is owner of their house to start with. And investing in property is not a bad investment. It's certainly not been over the last few months, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. But the problem that we have now is that how can the new generation afford housing? And that's what I'm concerned about. And I want to make sure that it's still possible and those people are not going to rent for their whole life. I think it's very important for young people to invest. Real estate is good. It's, when you're renting, when you leave you don't have anything left. When you're selling your house, at least you have something. It's usually the strongest, the biggest investment in our lifetime, and we have to make sure that it remains like that for the next generation, and we put in place some conditions that are favorable. But right now, with the crisis and with the prices going up like crazy, I'm scared that it's not going to be affordable anymore for that generation. That's what I'm concerned about right now.
All right, let's look. I said you would take callers, so I want to go to the phones. If you have a question for Eric Duhaime, leader of the Provincial Conservative Party, you can call us at 790-0800, or you can text us at 514-800, including this text that says, please ask Mr. Duhaime, what is his policy for Quebec regarding separation?
Well, we don't, I don't think there's any appetite in any form or shape right now to have another referendum. unfortunately, I think we're out of that old paradigm, and that's why we see the Liberals and the Parti Québécois going down the drain, because Quebecers want to turn the page, and I welcome that new opportunity, and I think that explains what the rise of our party in part, because people just want to move on, and we have two parties that are still the yes and the no camp, and it's time for both of us, and francophones and anglophones in Quebec, to move on and start, talking about other issues. I don't believe that we need another referendum. It's been very divisive for Quebecers, very bad for our economy, and we realized today that it didn't bring us anything, and we wasted half a century fighting against each other on that issue.
From another text, we now have two new parties provincially, of course, that have decided to run. And you had the premier yesterday, when asked about these two parties, suggesting that, you know what, if we push the idea of bilingualism for Quebec, then Quebec will, between 50 and 100 years from now, turn into a Louisiana. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I'm a francophone, and it's my mother tongue, and I'm very proud of it. And I think it's important as Quebecers, all Quebecers, to protect and to promote French, because we're, it's fragile, and yes, we're a small minority in America. That being said, I don't think Quebec is Louisiana. There's a huge difference between Quebec and Louisiana. It's always, awkward to compare things that are not comparable. I do believe that, the most important thing for us as francophones and even anglophones in Quebec who have an opportunity to learn a second language very easily and to practice it on a daily basis, I do believe that it's important for us, as individuals, to not only speak French, but make sure the quality of our language is good. It's not just the fact that we speak or not. It's also the quality of our language that is important, and we have to be first and foremost, as individuals, promoters of our own language, and that's something that it's not always. Yes, the government has some responsibility, but we have to look ourselves in the mirror and think that we have personally a responsibility. We cannot rely on governments to preserve our language at all.
Let me go to a call. Isaac is on the line, 790-0800, if you have a question for Eric Duhaime. Isaac, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Mr. Duhaime. So I am Anglophone, but I'm, worried about the decreasing demographics of French Canadians here in Quebec. So would the Conservative Party, if elected, commit to reducing immigration in Quebec, or to just better assimilate the immigrants who are already coming?
Oh.
Well, first off, the immigration right now is in a different paradigm as well, because now with the shortage of manpower, we're not looking at immigration just like we used to between the Anglophone or Francophone. We're trying to find immigrants to fulfill jobs because we have a shortage. So I think we're in another world for immigration right now. But that being said, you're right. We have to make sure that the numbers are keep going up. But there's a lot of we have to be cautious when we say that the French is declining in Quebec. It's not crystal clear, and it depends on what you're talking about. As I said last time I was on your show, there's never been as many Anglophones who are bilingual in Quebec as we have right now. Mm-hmm. So it depends on what you're looking. If you're looking at the mother tongue, or if you're looking at the language they practice or they work with, it's very easy to find, statistics that are showing a decline of French. But it's not that crystal clear. It's clear outside of Quebec, that I admit, but within Quebec, it's not that clear.
Monsieur Duhaime, I want a little bit of clarification there. So would you be okay with increasing immigration numbers?
Well, as personally, I always thought that immigration needs to be linked with, the jobs that we have. Yes. An immigrant who's coming here and who is unemployed, it's a failure both for Quebec and for the immigrants coming here. So we have to make sure that, those people who come here can have and that's why they come here. They want a better future, and we have to make sure that it is possible for them to get a better future. So and that's a problem we have, and that's a reason why a lot of people are frustrated. There's two things that are problematic right now. The first one is that, every time there's one that doesn't work or brings, when their family come and they don't work, it creates all sorts of tension with the new society. The second one is also the fact that we have a hard time to make sure that they also go in other regions in Montreal. And as you know, that's been a huge issue for decades in Quebec. I saw that the Liberals want to maintain them in regions, but it's not that obvious. You cannot attach immigrants to a region and forbid them to move to Montreal. We have some rights and freedoms in Quebec, and I'm the last person who will say that an immigrant who arrives here doesn't have a right to move from one region to the other. It's completely ridiculous. So those are two huge challenges that we need to fulfill, and it's not a matter of numbers. It's a matter of integration, and we have to make sure that it's a success, that each of them is successful, and that's the challenge we had for forever, and it's more pressing now.
Yeah, which sounds really good in theory, but the question then becomes, how do you do that? Do you offer them free French lessons? How do you integrate them so you don't run into those problems?
Well, obviously, the French training is important. The fact that when they arrive here, if they already speak French is also a plus. But we've been focusing a lot on language, and then we ended up realizing that many of them were coming here and weren't able to find good jobs, and because we were focusing mainly on language, and so it's an equilibrium. You cannot just look at the language issue, and the other thing also, it's not the immigrant's job to make sure that the French is preserved in Quebec. It's also, as francophones, we have our own duty, and we have to make sure that we invest into that, and that's not. We have to make sure that first off we speak it properly, we transfer it properly, we integrate those people in our job, in our family, in our as friends. So it's not just the government's job to do that, to welcome those people.
Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall, CJAD 800.
Joined by provincial conservative leader Eric DUHAIME. He is taking your calls, your questions, 790-0800, 514-800 for your text. So let's not waste any time. Go right back to the phones. This is Aaron. Aaron, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, go ahead. You're on with Eric DUHAIME.
Yeah, okay, good. I just put the radio on. I'm in the car, and I heard the gentleman say it would be great if Quebecers were bilingual. Does that mean only the English should be bilingual? How about the French? I think it would be great for all of us to be bilingual, even in the rural areas. You're holding people back by not encouraging bilingual.
Well, let's let him answer, Aaron.
Aaron, I can't agree more with you. As you see, I'm bilingual as well, and it's been one of the greatest heritage that my parents gave me, because my parents don't speak English, and they wanted me to speak English, and they sent me to the pre-kindergarten in English. And they were not rich, and they were putting a lot of money aside to make sure that I would learn a second language, and that's one of the reasons why professionally I was so successful in my life, my personal life as well. And I'm very proud of what my parents did, and I hope as many parents in Quebec that we can, francophone and anglophones. You're right, Aaron. Both. We should. It's a richness to speak both languages. We live in a territory, one of the few, if not the only one in North America, where it's very easy to practice on a daily basis, and we should take advantage of that.
All right, Aaron. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Stephanie on line 2. Stephanie, go ahead.
Hello. Good afternoon. I have a two-part question. What is your position on Bill 21? And if you ever won the premiership of Quebec, would you consider rescinding it altogether?
Okay, so the question on Bill 21, first off, you have to know that historically the Conservative Party, under the leadership of the person that was there before me, Adrien Pouliot, who's well known in Montreal because he was the owner of CFCF 12, the party was against Bill 21 when it was adopted. Personally, I was in favor of it at the time. Now the bill has been adopted, and it's been very divisive over the last few years, and I think the last thing we want is to reopen that can of worm again. My focus is on cutting taxes, fixing our healthcare system, making sure that parents have more choice for the education of their kids. I think those are the issues that should be more important for all Quebecers than reopening always the same old battle. We're talking about language issue or immigration issues or the religious symbols. I mean, we've played into that forever, and during that time we weren't taking care of our healthcare system, our education system. We aren't developing properly our natural resources. So I think it's time for Quebecers to focus on our taxes, our healthcare system, and our education system first and foremost.
Stephanie, anything else?
Well, I'm kind of disappointed with his answer.
No, sorry, but that's what we stand for. I mean, if we reopen those debates and we do it for another 50 years, we can play in that movie. We've done it with the constitutional issue for 5 decades. But while we're doing that, we're not talking about how we can lower your tax, how we can fix our healthcare system, or we could give you more choice for your kids in education.
Monsieur DUHAIME, I just wanted to Stephanie's point, though. So you're saying if you were the premier, you would not rescind Bill 21, although you are against Bill 21 now.
Yeah. No, we're not going to. No, but the party was against it. But we voted. We decided that we're not going to reopen. It's a can of worms, and we don't want to redo it. It's like Bill 101. If it was to redo, there's tons of things that we could redo. But do we really want to have another linguistic crisis? We see what's going on with Bill 96 right now. It's a freak show. So we think that sometimes we have a bonne entente right now. And let's not shake it up too much because we don't want to create a new crisis.
So you're saying by extension the same thing would happen with Bill 96? You would do nothing about that despite describing it as a freak show?
I wouldn't have done that because the Bill 96, I'm against Bill 96. I wouldn't have tabled Bill 96. I look what's going on when we start talking about those issues and how it's going right now. Yes, I do believe that the whole debate about Bill 96 right now looks like a freak show. Every day there's a new new chapter.
But you would do nothing about it if you were the premier? Leave the bill as it is right now?
I would have lived Bill 101 like it was. I wouldn't have tabled Bill 96.
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
And Mr. DUHAIME, if I understand, that's because you feel like we've got to work on other things right now. That's
Absolutely. Our focus should be elsewhere. We've played too much into identity, sovereignty, constitutional issues. It's time to focus on the economy, our healthcare system.
Let's take another call. This is Joe on the line. Joe, go ahead for Eric DUHAIME.
Hi, Eric. Pleasure to hear from you. I have to disclose I'm involved with the Canadian Party of Quebec, but I have to say that I'm very, impressed with some of your answers. On the language side, one thing I'd like to reaffirm is let's put away the stereotypes. Anglophone Quebec supports the French language. It's very important to us. Most of us, we're talking 90-something%, are bilingual, and it's part of our identity. So on Bill 96, would you support an actual collaborative effort to reinforce French the way there seems to be a demand in certain pockets of our society, but without attacking English? That's the first question. And the second question would be similar topics that I think that must be near and dear to your heart right now. Will you push for democratic reform? We have a scenario where we're going to have a second CAC majority with a minority of votes stronger than the last time. We have a democratic representation system that's gone completely off the rails. Will you make this a priority and actually fight to get it done? Fight with all the other parties that might be represented.
Joe, let's give him a chance to answer.
So there's two questions. The first one is regarding language. I've always been somebody who likes the government when they encourage you to do something, but the coercive measures I really dislike, especially on linguistic issues. And for that, you're right. And Anglophones in Quebec have proved over and over that they're not against French. And you're also right to see that even it's growing. I mean, the French is growing in that community, and nobody's talking about it. It's always surprising. The second thing is the democratic reform question. We saw the polls, and you're right. Right now, the CAQ, with a little bit more than 40%, would get 80-something% of the seats of the National Assembly if there were an election, according to some polls. And it's a huge distortion of democracy. But it's not the first time that we see that, and it's not the first time that we see politicians saying they're going to fix it, and they didn't do it. I'd just like to tell you that Justin Trudeau in Ottawa promised a democratic reform to make sure that the proportional aspect would be included. It never happened. They betrayed their promises. And François Legault did the same thing, as did the Liberals before and the Parti Québécois before. So I don't want to play in that movie and be another politician who's saying that we're going to reform our democratic system. And that when I'm in power, I say, well, you know what? The system that got me elected is not too bad after all. So and the other problem I have also is that if there is to be a democratic reform, it needs to be a consensus among parties. There's something that would be weird if it's democratically imposed by one single party to all the others. But it seems that it's almost impossible to reach a consensus on that issue. So if you have suggestions, go for it. But in my book, it's really not clear what's the best thing to do. Historically, again, the party has been in favor of a democratic reform, but I wouldn't see myself promising that during an election campaign, just like the CAQ did before, like the Liberals did before, or like the Parti Québécois did before.
Sounds like you share. It sounds, Mr. Duhaime, like you share some of the policies of the new Canadian Party of Quebec. I don't know if Joe feels the same way. What do you think? Is there a possibility of moving across the board here?
Mm-hmm.
What do you?
I honestly, I don't know them. I've read a few articles like here and there lately because there's things that we hear. But I don't know. I don't know them enough to answer that question.
All right, we'll take one more call, and I'm going to run out of time. Phil is on the line. Phil, go ahead. Your question for Eric Duhaime.
Yeah, so there's three parties opposing the CAQ, which appears to be a racist party, or in terms of trying to accomplish its objectives. The three parties, why can't they get together so as to have a real opposition?
Because the Quebec political spectrum right now is not split on those issues. We're trying to move on from those issues. We're more and more split, like all the other democracies in the world, between a right wing and a left wing. And we have a lot of parties on the left right now. And for me, as a conservative, and the reason why I don't think I have enough in common to merge with any of the other parties is because we're the only one who wants to lower taxes in Quebec. We're the only ones who want to add the contribution of the private sector in healthcare. We're the only ones who want to give more choice to parents in education. We're the only ones who want to develop our natural resources, including gas and oil, and exploit it here in Quebec. So there's way too many issues where we completely disagree with other parties to even think about a merge with them.
Okay. I will just ask you on that last point, when you talk about gas exploration, private health care, and you said that before, it's no secret, but the polls seem to suggest there's not really a public appetite for that. So why push that?
Well, yesterday, I don't know if you saw the Ipsos poll that was published yesterday, 53% of Quebecers do believe that we should exploit our gas so we can help our European allies right now. And one of the reasons of the crisis in Ukraine is because they're so Europe has become so dependent of Putin, and he's funding his war with that money, and that needs to stop. If we want to be real allies, we need to exploit our gas and send it to our allies in Europe. So 53% for me is a good thing. There's 47% that are represented by four other parties at the National Assembly right now.
All right, Mr. Duhaime, we're out of time. Yeah, we want to thank. I think this will make you feel good. Someone just sent in a text, if I can call you Eric. It said, hey, what's wrong with this guy? I don't get it. He's saying everything I agree with.
We get that a lot.
So there you go. The conservative. That's easy.
Mr. Duhaime, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Very much appreciated.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you to you both.